I implemented a very simple but powerful solution for forgetful people like myself, and it could be useful for sales professionals as well. As you're going to see right now, it's very, very basic, but it gets the job done, and I think it can have a major impact on your business if you are in lots of meetings, if you're moving from place to place and doesn't really have time to take notes. So let's begin. It's just a simple memo bot, a simple AI assistant that can take your voice inputs either by voice notes or by audio files. And if there are some action items in there, it's going to extract them and put them in a to-do list application, like in this case, Google Tasks, but it could be Todoist, it could be ClickUp, it could be anything else, it could be a spreadsheet, whatever you want. But the principle is the same. So what are we going to do? First, we're going to demo the solution. Then we're going to try to break it a little bit just to test that it's actually robust. We are going to the build in n8n. And at the end, we can discuss possible improvements and applications. So let's begin. On the right side of my screen, you can see my Telegram chat with my Memo bot. And on the left side, you see the Google Task dashboard, which right now is empty, but hopefully at the end of the demo, you're going to see the tasks that were created there. So let me find a voice note, or let me send rather a voice note to my assistant. Hey, I just left the meeting with the Coca-Cola company. They seem very interested in the automation project that I presented to them, but they want me to send them an updated proposal and better document. So remind me to do that. Also, tell Mark that we need to meet to discuss the budget for Q4 and also to align on the goals for Q1 next year, 2026. That's it. Thank you. So there's a lot there, right? So it's going to take a while to work on this. First, it's going to acknowledge that it received a proper input, and then from that input is going to analyze the transcription, and based on the transcription, hopefully it's going to create a series of tasks that we are going to see on the left side. And also, we are going to see some enriched data about the company, the Coca-Cola company, that I just mentioned in my voice note. So let's see. Let's see if the tasks are good enough. We can see the magic here on the left side. Meet with Mark to align on the goals for Q1 2026. That's correct. Meet with Mark to discuss the budget for Q4. That makes sense. And send an updated and better documented proposal to the Coca-Cola company. That's pretty good. So yeah, it seems that it's working. So let's go now to n8n and see how this works. So let me. All right, so the actual workflow that accomplishes this task. So we can see now that there are a lot of things happening, but roughly we have two parts, or we have three parts instead. First, we have to understand what kind of input we received, and that happens over here. So we get data from Telegram, and we need to check, is this audio? Is this voice? If it is audio or voice, we can work with that. If it is something else, then that's an invalid message and we skip it, or we notify the user that we cannot work with it, right? Then we use, in this case, Google or Gemini to transcribe the audio either from the voice file or from the audio file. Then we have a memo classifier. We cannot really do much with random voice notes that don't have actionables in them. So we need to classify the input to see if we can actually work with it. If the memo is invalid, it doesn't contain any actionables. If it is just a random greeting or maybe, I don't know, a mistake, we cannot do anything. So we notify the user that that's an invalid input. Otherwise, we insert the memo debrief in a table that I'm going to show you a little bit later. We notify the user that we are processing, and then we analyze the transcription to try to extract as many action items as possible. If there is a company mentioned there, we are going to research that company and we are going to parse that company, the response, and update that information in the memo enrich data. Otherwise, we're just going to update the memo with the data that we extracted before. And of course, we are going to extract the tasks we're going to create the tasks based on the analyzed transcription, and then we are not going to notify the user. So before diving deep into the workflow, let's try to break the system a little bit. So let me find my Telegram window and let me just, I don't know, send something that is not audio, right? If I say this, it says, hey, I only work with audio files or voice notes. Please try again. That's fine. Let's send a random voice note that doesn't contain anything interesting. Hi, how are you? So let's wait. This shouldn't pass either. Let's see. Okay, this is what we got. Seems the audio you sent is not a memo. Reason, simple greeting with no business context, entities, or actionable content. Please try again. So this is good because then we're not going to waste resources on faulty input, right? Okay, that's good. So let's go back from the beginning and take a look at each element in our workflow. Oh, no, before doing this, actually, let me just go and take a look at the tables. So we're gonna come here and we are going to come here to the data tables, and you can see we have our most recent one here. I just left the meeting with the Coca-Cola company. They seem very interested in the automation project that I presented. So this is our full transcript. We have the extracted data in JSON format, client info, the Coca-Cola company, coca-cola.com. That's the domain. That's something that the agent researched on its own. And then we have the action items over here. And let's see if we have anything interesting over here in the enrich company data. So we have more data here. We have the location of the HQ, where's the industry, when it was founded, the number of employees. So as we can see, this is pretty interesting stuff that in a real sales context, we can use to prepare follow-up or to prepare future meetings, right? So of course, I'm using the embedded data tables in n8n, but this could be a spreadsheet, this could be a CRM, this could be Airtable, this could be Google Sheets, Excel, whatever you use. So this is an example of how you can enrich the company and data that you send on the voice note and store that in a different external system, right? So let's go back to the structure of the output. If we have audio, I'm going to stop on the most interesting parts because there's quite a bit of stuff going on here. But if you want to download the workflow, play with it yourself, and play around and modify it for your use case, you're going to find it here in the pinned comment in the YouTube comment section. So one of the most crucial parts is understanding our input, because we can only work with audio files. So we need to see, did we get a proper MP3 file, or did we get a voice note, or did we get anything else that we cannot work with? So for that, we need to analyze the Telegram input, right? So for that, it's just super simple. We just take a look at the structure of the input JSON. And if we have an audio field, that means it is an actual file. If we have a voice field, it means it is a voice note. And if we don't have any of those, it means we cannot do anything with it and we reject it, right? So you can see that when we receive a voice note, we have over here, let me move myself over here, cool. We have the file ID. So then we have to download that file, right? And we pass that file to the transcriber, which in this case is Google, right? We're using Gemini 2.5 Pro to transcribe the binary data that came from Telegram. And the first AI component here is the memo classifier. We need to understand if this is something we can actually do something interesting with. So the first thing we have over here is the system prompt, which says you are a precise classifier, decide if the given transcript is a business memo in a sales CRM context. Definitions: a memo is an intentional information dense note that captures meeting details, updates, or next steps. Typically mentions people, companies, opportunities, decisions, dates, times, amounts, tasks, or follow-ups. Not a memo, greetings, chit chat, travel updates, jokes, background chatter, or content without actionable business relevance. Heuristics: apply all of them. Likely a memo if more than 20 words and contains more than one of entities, actions, structure. Likely not a memo if it's less than 8 words or only greetings or filler words. No business context or actions, pure status like on my way, call me, jokes, music, background combo. When ambiguous, prefer memo equals false unless there's at least one clear business action or detail. And the output should always be a JSON with this structure, memo, rather with a flag, so it can be either true or false, and the reason of the classification. That's very important because then we are going to parse that out in a JSON structure and use that to decide if we reject the input or we continue our workflow. And for this, we're using just Claude for Sonnet just to test different models. We're using Open Router. This is a consolidated AI provider. Maybe in a future video, I can go more in depth about what Open Router is, but it's great. If you're not using it, I recommend you use it. It's super cool. Anyway, okay, if it is a memo, we insert that data in our memo debrief table, as we can see here, with the Telegram user ID and the transcript. Only that for now. We notify the user that we are processing, as we saw in the Telegram demo, and then we get to the heavy lifting, which is analyzing the transcription itself. So this memo is a little bit, this system prompt is a little bit longer, so I'm not going to read it in full detail. Again, download the template and play with it and study in more detail if you want. But basically, what we do here is we tell the agent how to extract the data. So we are going to extract something with a JSON with client info and action items. We have instructions about what client info we care about, in this case, the name and the domain if it is available. As you saw in my example, the domain wasn't available, but it was inferred, right? And then we have action items, which are things that I need to do based on the input. And we have a few short examples here. And as usual, I have my parser over here. You can see that I like to use structured parser outputs just to make sure that everything is consistent. And for this, I'm using GPT 4.1 mini. For my transcription, which is my most important task, I'm relying on Gemini 2.5 Pro because it's a thinking model and I think it's pretty good at this type of tasks. And then I have two paths that kind of happen in parallel. The first one is this, where I check if I could extract a company name from the transcription. And if that's the case, I go to Perplexity. A Perplexity is basically an LLM connected to the internet that can perform research on whatever you ask it to do. And in this case, I'm researching the company. I'm saying, please research this company with this domain and return a concise JSON with this data: the name, domain, description, industry, HQ, if available, when it was founded, and the number of employees. If the info is not found, set the fields to null and only respond with a valid JSON. And we saw that that works because we saw that data in our table. We parse that response and update our memo entry. And if we couldn't extract a company, we just update our memo entry with the extracted data from the transcription. And of course, in parallel, we are creating our tasks in Google Tasks, and we notify the user that that's exactly what happened. So as you can see, it's simple, but if we want to make it a little bit more robust, we have to take into consideration certain things as valid inputs and what to do and when to do it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a very simple application, but I think it can have a really um, important impact on your business, especially if you are in meetings and those meetings don't happen online. If you are, you probably have heard about solutions like Fireflies, or if you're using Google services, you might have the Google Gemini transcription service, and that's pretty good if your meetings are online. But what happens if you're having in-person meetings with prospects, clients, and you don't want to take notes? Instead of taking notes, you want to focus on the client or on the prospect themselves, and then when you are moving from one place to another, you can consolidate all of your thoughts into a single voice note without the fear of missing out on important details. And that can make a world of difference about the number of clients you close, and your revenue, your monthly revenue. So that's it. I hope this was very helpful for you. It was a pretty fun experiment. And yeah, see you next time.